All right, we are live.
Kara, Ben, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Carabin, that was like
Carabin?
Cara.
Carabine.
Cara and Ben.
Kara and Ben.
That could be a new nickname, though. Caravan.
Yeah.
Carabin?
It's better than mixing your last names. That didn't go so well earlier. Well, thanks for coming on. Really excited to have you on because social media and marketing is something that we've always done throughout our business, but doing it with this podcast is a whole different challenge.
Yeah.
Where really views and likes and all that stuff is important, right? Because we want to grow it, make it bigger. So when Ryan told me you guys were coming on, I was super excited. So we do this thing where I'm going to name off a few things that I think you guys are, and you tell me if I'm right or wrong and what I missed.
Okay.
Okay. Dental hygienist,
Yes.
entrepreneur,
Yes.
social media and marketing consultant. Did I get that right?
We do some. It's not the primary business, but
Okay. And recently engaged
Yes.
and proud mom of 2 chihuahuas.
Yes.
Okay. All right. What did I miss?
Some have called me, for the hygiene community, a social influencer, key opinion leader,
thought leader.
thought leader.
There's so many different terms for all that.
Yeah.
Social influencer is kind of the big buzzword, if you will, right now.
It's kind of a hard position to define, right? Because you can call it business development. What does that mean? Marketing, in charge of social media manager. You know, I know people that have YouTube managers. That's all they do is YouTube.
And like we were just talking about, your Facebook page just hit 151,000 followers, which is humongous.
Yes. And then on top of that, I have Instagram, which is about 30,000 and change followers, and then Snapchat.
What's your Instagram handle?
Kara underneath lowest / RDH.
Underscore?
There we go.
Underscore.
Kara underscore RDH,
Yeah. And then Snapchat, maybe 20,000.
which is huge.
I'm going to pull up the
Do you ever get anxiety thinking that
screen capture here.
you have more people following you than could fit in the Rose Garden?
Yeah. And actually, we've been in the Rose Garden at concerts, and Ben would be like, you know that like 8 times this or 10 or however many. And he's like, and I'm like, don't tell me that. Thanks.
It's good though, because when you're in like for us, you don't really feel that. It's not like you're on live TV or anything. It's just us sitting here BSing in a cool museum. Mm-hmm. But all right, so you went to school, became a dental hygienist, and then at what point did you start to realize that you want to be an entrepreneur?
So I guess right now and when I graduated, the job market for hygienists very saturated. Like, good luck getting a job. And a lot of the job openings are for less than desirable offices. So I found myself in one of those offices. And
What was undesirable about it?
so, for instance, a pro fee, like your regular dental cleaning, it should be a good hour. I only was given a half an hour and seeing up to 18 patients a day, whereas you should actually get an hour and see about 8, give or take. But yeah, up to 18 patients a day, no lunch. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So it was making me emotionally sick, physically sick. So there I was like, Ben just finally said, we've got to do something else. This is absurd. You can't live like this. And I was like, if this is what dentistry is about, like, I don't think I want any of this. And my cousin's a dentist. And so I was like, it's not like this at his office. So I was like, what is going on? So we started looking for something else. And so in all of our reading, Ben, if you want to take it over, it's like, you need to have an audience. That's the first step. If you have an audience, then more opportunity, I wouldn't say falls in your lap, but there are more doors that can be opened.
So before you had an idea of what you wanted to do, you said, I need an audience.
Yes.
So that involved networking and that kind of stuff, or what was your first step?
We researched the platforms and decided we'd start with Facebook. And so we grew an audience there, and it really just blew up.
And what was the audience there for? Or what was the content at that point?
Right in the beginning, it was kind of stupid stuff. It was, comics or funny dental, memes and e-cards and, things like that. It was just because I didn't know what I wanted to do yet. It was like, okay, well, let's get this audience. And then, I don't know, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, well, I guess so often people they come up with a product or service first and then try to find what to do with it. We kind of flip that on our head and we're like, let's build a group of followers and build an audience of hygienists and mainly hygienists, some dentists, some assistants, but not knowing what would come from that, but just knowing that there is value in that and that it would make it easier for doors to open.
So
Not knowing what those doors are, but
What made you guys reverse that? You said product before the audience. I mean, what did you guys get that from a book or where?
When you do reading into people who are very successful and all the Business Insider and all that stuff that you read and the podcasts and the people that we watch, they always say everyone does it wrong. Like Ben said, you have the product and then you're like, oh no, what do I do with this? And so we were like, we're going to listen to the advice. So we did.
So you just had a social media presence that was interesting to people, that wasn't selling anything,
Yep.
that like memes, like meme artistry is a big thing right now, right?
Well,
Viral
and it
type
was
stuff.
research and then articles I liked and, things like that. It was just kind of funny, educational, just kind of a positive place online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something that somebody would like.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and I hate to use the comparison, but you look at someone like, the Kardashians. It's kind of like they have this huge empire now that they've built, starting from a reality show. But it was really, they had an audience, doors opened as a result of that, the whatever, Kylie Jenner, whatever, cosmetics or whatever,
And now doors have shut because of it, right? So-
yeah, right. But I don't know if they had those things planned in the beginning, but once they kind of built that up, it was like opportunities open. So we looked at that as even like, athletes, again, don't like making the comparison of, but Michael Jordan or something, a lot of his, notoriety, he was great on the basketball court, but he also took it beyond that. He was revolutionary with Nike and that shoe deal and where that went and, Gatorade, all the endorsements. And so you look at that and, the reason that advertisers want to work with them is because they have a platform. And so it's building that platform and then seeing what'll come with it. And so it was for probably the first year there was, no money made, no one was, it was, hygienists were very interested. Companies would start to take notice, but they didn't really know what to do with this either. And it was probably, like a year in before we, kind of had the first sponsorship deal. that came in.
Started getting contacted by companies. When we were about 30,000 followers, companies were like, okay, there's something here. And then because of that following also, then I got a column in a trade magazine, a dental hygiene publication. So I had a monthly column, and I did that for about a year. And then because of that, and then of course there's some things in the middle, but then that led to sort of being poached by another publication. And so now I'm an editor and writer for UBM, which is the publisher, but Dental Products Report, and then their hygiene vertical is Modern Hygienists.
And so all this was going on while you were still working at the dental practice?
No. I finally did, yes. Well, we started the page, started growing, and while we were doing all that, I'm looking for a new job, and I did, and I finally found another job. But then this started taking so much of my time that I don't work clinically anymore.
So I have a question. So you are starting to get contacted by people because of your social media presence. At what point does it become a business where you're like, okay, now we need to get a business license and start that portion of it?
When companies wrote us a check, we had to, so that's when.
We had, we'll keep the company names out of it, but we had the first company that was like a big, like 5-figure deal was one that they, it was a marketing campaign that they had some stuff fall through and they were like a little bit desperate to, get some attention on it. And so they reached out to Kara and we put together a proposal of something that at the time I thought was like an astronomical price. It was like, like $11,000 or $12,000, and to do a few Facebook posts. And I was like, we'll see there, see how it goes. They didn't even negotiate on it. I mean, they just were like,
They're like, sounds great.
Yeah, they were like, okay. And I was just like, wait a second, that opened up, the to kind of see like a lot of, dentistry is a $120 billion industry. And so there's the, very large publicly traded companies that to this, it's almost a rounding error to them. And so they were like, okay, that's, once they agreed to that deal, we're like, oh shoot, we gotta go, register the business, get a bank account, go, so we did all that and then had a nice check to deposit in that right away.
So how did you guys put a value on your Facebook posts? We have a really cool guest coming on in a couple weeks who's 14 years old, and we met him at a barbecue, and he was on his YouTube page, and so I started asking him questions, and I'm like, "Oh, how many followers do you have? How many subscribers?" And he said, "Oh, about 1,000."
No, it was 2,000.
2,000.
And he's 14.
And what he does is he goes around and records different sounds, and then turns them into like techno songs, and they're awesome.
Well, that's
like
cool.
police sirens and cars backfiring, and like
Put some to beats
And so he started
interesting.
selling them to people
Right.
online who wanted to use the rights to those songs for their podcasts or whatever. And I was like, well, how did you come up with your value? How did you value it? And he goes, well, they just offered me this. And
I said yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
I said yes.
Yeah.
And then you could see the lights go off in his head. And so now he's trying to amp that up and get his subscribers. And he's telling me how to do things a certain way. You want your thumbnails to look this way. You want to use all caps. And he's 14. So how did you guys say, come up with that figure for your first bid?
honestly just kind of like threw it out there just to see what it was. I mean, there wasn't much thought to it. Even to this day, pricing is something that it's difficult to do because you don't want to obviously price too high and then lose the deal. You also don't want to price too low and leave money on the table.
Well, and devalue yourself. There's something to be said with having this many followers, more than any other publication, more than,
Right. So what we started doing was looking at the rate cards of the trade magazines that are out there and looking at kind of how big their followers were or how big their audience was, and then adjusting accordingly. We've been, continually trying to push it higher and higher. Again, it depends. There's very large, Wrigley, Listerine, some big brand names that, they have huge budgets. And so those, we kind of price accordingly, if you will. But again, it's probably the toughest part because you don't want to leave money on the table and you don't want to lose the deal. One thing I did notice, though, and I think you've seen this, is that sometimes you can price too low and it actually excludes you from getting the deal, because when you're dealing with, if you're going to charge like $500 for something for a Facebook post, but they've got a team of 5 people that are working on this, for them, they're spending more money just in the phone call to have the meeting with it. So it's kind of like,
there is a such thing as too low, basically.
Well, it's like Craigslist. When my dad did a remodel, he tried to sell the vanity out of the bathroom, and he was like $50. He just wanted it gone, but he knew it was worth something. Nobody called on it.
Right.
And then he bumped it up to like $125 the next week, and it was gone the first day. Because people are like, oh, $50, it must be a piece of junk.
Who was it? Who was on recently that said, if you put a fridge out in the curb and put for sale free, nobody will buy it. But if you put $10, someone will steal it.
right? No, it's Robert Cialdini, The Psychology of Influence, that came out in like the early 80s, I believe. Are you guys familiar with that book?
No.
Oh, this is a good one. So he originally wrote it kind of like consumer minded to like, here's the tricks of like, pricing is one of them. And he gave an anecdote of, there was a jewelry store owner in New Mexico that was having trouble selling like topaz jewelry or whatever. And so she told one of her employees, was like, I want you to cut the prices in half just to get a sale to like get these done. The employee misread it and doubled the prices. And when that happened, all the stuff sold out because people place a higher value on, something that's more expensive. Humans are kind of lazy, so they just look at it and they're like, well, it's more expensive. There must be a reason it's better quality. Whereas if it's like a $10 thing, and so it's interesting how the shortcuts that the human brain takes for those types of things.
So interesting. Ben has read Doug's book Spark.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier.
And Doug spoke at one of his company's conferences, so that was a good little tie-in connection.
Have you always been into personal development?
I think personal development.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
You should see our bookcase. It's,
I guess.
yeah.
I mean, I've been real. I kind of straddle the line of I have my corporate job, and this is obviously Kara's full-time thing, but I call it my evenings and weekends job. She's my boss, so it's great.
Yes,
But it's I have gone through back in, when was it, 2008, great timing. Quit my job as an analyst at a debt buying company, started my own, partnered up with a buddy from college. We raised quite a bit of money. Gave it a run for about 3 years, but we just couldn't keep raising money. And I think it kind of like scarred me in terms of a little bit of like, I used to be a little skeptical of the steady paycheck. I was all like, entrepreneurship, do it on your own. And then I've seen when you kind of are like flying high and then it crashes down. So now it's kind of, doing both at the same time.
I never thought about it this way, but it's kind of like when there's a fire in a field or a forest. The forest grows back stronger, and farmers will burn their crops so they come back stronger the next year. That's kind of what happened in that recession, right, in 2008, especially for us, and it affected every industry.
But mortgage specifically.
Oh yeah.
But look at people now. Look at the entrepreneurs that are our age now that went through that and survived, or went through it and lost everything and are forced to start over.
Right.
And have that. I've been scarred. I learned a lesson, and I'm not going to let it keep me down. Right. And I'm going to come back stronger.
Yeah.
I never thought about it that way until I just heard that.
Well, cool. I mean, the lessons are, that's the key. I mean, and Kara was we started dating towards the end of the decline. And I think part of what brought us together is I needed to lean on her. I mean, I went through a big state of depression. You needed a sponsor? Yeah, pretty much. It's, you kind of like, at least, for guys especially, you kind of base your identity on your career and, what
your pride and everything.
Yeah. And so when you do all that you can or that you think that you can at the time and it doesn't work out, I was kind of this cocky little kid that was like, I've got my business, raised a bunch of money, I'm set. Then there's external forces that come in. There's things, hindsight 2020, should have done some things differently. And, it brings you back to reality. But I agree, it does. It makes you that much stronger. And I think that with what Kara and I have done, there's definitely been some experiences that, been able to learn from that and kind of, be a little bit more assertive in terms of like negotiating, getting that done. And
I let him do the negotiating. He's kind of just the numbers. No, he is the numbers guy. Like I'm
numbers nerd.
Like I am the face, and it is about dental hygiene and whatnot. But when it comes down to numbers and marketing and negotiations and writing contracts and things like that, that's where Ben comes in. So we're very lucky.
To Kara's credit, she was, her father was an entrepreneur, had his own electrician. He was an electrician, had his own company, did that for 25, 30 years.
40, 50.
Yeah. And so there have been some things that I've been actually very impressed that I think Kara innately understands that, with no business school training, nothing like that, that just, I'm like, wow, there were some things that rubbed off that, I certainly didn't know.
Interesting. Just because you're around it. And
every day. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say one thing about this podcast is it's the hunt for success, which we're all striving for in whatever shape or form that may be. But it's also about the failures that come along with success. And so, like, Ben just nailed it as far as, like, having that failure, but then learning from it. And, you're going to have a ton of failures before you get those successes, oftentimes. And so, I mean, that's a perfect example of, something that you've gone through that's made you stronger with what you're dealing with right now.
Well, and I think even within that first deal that I was referencing, I would say that I don't know if you want to talk about it a little more, that ended up being kind of a failure on financially. It was nice. The marketing campaign, it got their objectives met, but from our perspective, the CARES audience did not respond well to it. It was the first time they had been used to kind of having nothing advertised to them, and then all of a sudden she's putting out these, very blatant.
So this wasn't just
advertisements.
sponsors like advertisements on your page. This is you promoting somebody with your content.
Like, hey, check this out, blah blah blah. So we've definitely learned from that. We learned from that. But yeah, because my audience, the audience, they're very vocal, and so I have to really kind of listen and pay attention to how they respond to certain things and tweak. It's always about adjust.
Yeah, and probably I would imagine that there's a struggle to stay true to yourself and your opinions, right? And you don't want to be at the end of an MMA fight, they're holding empty cans of Monster Energy drink. Just they
Yeah.
probably don't. I mean, does a athlete drink a can of sugar?
Yeah.
No.
In reality,
Right.
no.
So
and that's a big thing that because there are with
we
any,
just lost our Monster sponsor, by the way, after that comment.
Dang it.
with
Time
any
for Red Bull.
with any industry, there's always those people that no matter what, like if they're just going to be like, yes, we'll sponsor you, here's a check, and then this person goes off, oh, this is so great. I refuse to do that. If there is a product or a company that I do not like truly believe in, would not recommend to my own patients, would not use myself, no. I just won't go there. Won't do it.
Well, it's like those commercials that you see where 9 out of 10 dentists approve this toothpaste.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, well, sure, you pay me enough, I'll approve it too.
Uh-huh.
Right.
So-
Don't get me started on dental commercials.
Ah.
Bad.
So, at what point did you decide that I don't need my dental hygienist job anymore?
So part of the interesting fact of this page was I started getting messages from hygienists asking questions, and what do you think about this? Here's my dilemma. Here's what's going on. What would you do if this patient presented with blah, 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 blah. The first question I actually got was from someone who had been in hygiene for 30 years and needed a second opinion. I'm like, why are you asking me?
Yeah.
And so, but these, we're coming in. And so it was at that point where we're not sleeping, and all I can do during the day while I'm seeing a patient is think about what I have to do at home. Then I knew I can't go into work every day. I'm just not a good employee. I can't. Plus, going to conferences and the travel and everything, I can't keep taking time off. So it's just when I can do both.
And how much fear did you have, or if any? Leaving the job that you went to school for and everything to the steady paychecks to
And
we're
that's
diving in.
the steady paychecks. That's the scary part.
Yeah.
That was the scariest part. It was like, okay, can we do this? It's like, am I going to have to go to the Bank of Benny? And so thank goodness for that Bank of Benny once in a while. But that was the scariest part. Yeah.
And because we talk about fear a lot and call reluctance, this podcast got started because I was doing a presentation for our office on my definitions of call reluctance. And I broke it down into 3 types: cold calling, right? And then follow-up or bad news, right? If you have to deliver bad news, you'd want to do it quickly. And the third was inaction, where you have this great idea, but you never act on it because your fear of failing or embarrassment, or in your case, the income. And so, if you watch Shark Tank, one episode, how many good ideas do you have in your head that you never act on, right?
Right.
And so while I was doing this, he called me out in front of Ryan called me out in front of our staff and said, like your podcast you've been talking about for 18 months. And I was like, God damn it.
It's true. It's true. He was like,
Evil eye.
And so I just said, okay, next week we'll do a podcast. And then we went back and bought the equipment and everything. But
Well, he hemmed and hawed over, like, do I buy this microphone or this camera?
Oh,
or
I was
this
looking
that's
for
this guy.
excuses. I was looking.
Yeah.
I was making roadblocks.
So I
Yeah.
literally walked into his office and I go, just pick one. They're all good. They're all about the same price. Just pick it.
So I did. I just threw a bunch of crap in Amazon shopping cart, and I returned half of it that didn't work. It wasn't the right thing.
And then you see these gold mics, and he's like, well, you have to do it with me. And I was like, well, and I was like, only if you get me a gold mic. And so they came in the mail, and he goes, open that package.
Oh, how cute. Next, you guys need mic flags. You know, that
Oh.
say with your little logo.
Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah,
your-
that's a good
yeah.
idea. It's a
Yep,
really good idea.
That's next. I have one.
But that fear holds a lot of people back,
Oh, yes.
right? And there is a lot of comfort in having the 9 to 5.
Yep.
And not everybody is built for it.
Yep.
And so it's always interesting to ask people, do they have fear in the decision they make, and how do you make that leap? It's interesting the reaction you get. Same with accountability. Those are the two questions that I get different answers from. And we've had a lot of different people on the show, anywhere from somebody that's selling all their belongings has a minimal amount of money, it's going to leave the area, quit his job, and go be a vagabond in an RV, to people that are multimillionaires. And so you get different different answers to those questions. Doug Mendenhall, the fear. Well, he never really had fear. When we asked him that question, he goes, "Yeah, you definitely have reluctance and stuff." And same with accountability. I require a lot of accountability. I don't know about you guys. Ryan and I hold each other accountable. I have a coach. I have somebody outside of my company in our industry that we have a Friday call every Friday to talk about where our business is and what our goals are, and did you accomplish what you wanted to. But then you ask some people, they say, not really. I'm just a self-accountable person.
And I would fall into the self-accountable. I'm also accountable to my audience. But then, and Ben too, I'm accountable to Ben and he's accountable to me. Like, you have to get your stuff done. Like, if I have something on a list and it sat there for a week, I'm going to be nagging.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. But yeah, accountability, that's a bit, sorry. And then it gets done, and it gets done well. But that's, you have to be accountable, especially, and then you have to be accountable for your choices on top of that. If you mess up, you mess up, but you got to keep going, just learn from it.
So, what kind of advice do you have for us or somebody else that has a good social media idea or because social media has really changed. And I never really was big into social media. I didn't think it was important to my business. But now that we've done this and you see people like Joe Rogan, they're creating spheres of people that isn't just out on the internet. If you go on the Joe Rogan show, you get connected with his sphere. And so you see people that didn't know each other, that were both on the Rogan show at some point, that are now in each other's movies or on each other's albums, or have created the other podcasts. And you can really see the social media networking, but in real life. It's kind of mixing the two.
My biggest thing is don't discount social media. A lot of times people, like, yes, you always go straight to Google and Google something. I know so many people that they actually go to Facebook and search just in Facebook to find out their news and to find out, like, to look up a company. They look at Facebook first. So if you don't have a website, if you don't have a social media presence, you're invisible. You can't discount it. Everyone is on their phones. And that's another thing, is not just a computer, but mobile friendly. Like, you think you're on your phone all the time. So don't discount the power of that phone. What do you have to say?
I think in terms of, at this point with social media, we're 15 years, almost 20 years into it in 2017. When we first had like Friendster and MySpace, maybe 15 years ago. But it's, it's new, but it's really kind of hit like a mainstream point. Like all, marketing blogs, magazines, all that, like social influencer marketing is kind of the hot trend right now. But really, in terms of building an audience, I think we're past the days of doing it for free. If people are very serious on the podcast, like promoting it, we spend quite a bit of money on Facebook ads, and that, keeps content in front of our audience, that helps share and get more things, get more followers that way. it really is kind of a pay-to-play game now, and which has its pluses and minuses. Of course, there's still things that'll go viral and do that, but that's one thing that I think a lot of people, they'll spend a lot of time on the content and then not on the actual like promotion of that content.
Getting it actually in front of people's eyes.
Yeah.
Because you can have the best, like he's saying, you could have the best posts, you could have like the best website, but if no one actually goes there and reads it,
Yeah, like
Again,
12,
why?
12 people look at it.
yeah, why?
Right.
Well, and there's a revolution going on right now, like similar to the Industrial Revolution, right? Where if you can hop that wave and put your ideas in motion now, who knows where you're going to be at in 20 years.
Right.
And if you miss that wave, maybe you're going to look back and go, man, that was really cool. I witnessed
Yeah.
it, but I wasn't part of it.
Yeah.
And you guys are definitely doing that. I mean, you have podcasts or shows on YouTube that have multi-million subscribers, right? Or on iTunes. Like I think Joe Rogan's got millions of subscribers on iTunes and 1.5 million on YouTube. Well, if you turn on the nightly news, they might get 2 million views, 3 million views.
Right.
4 million would be a good high rating for a nightly news program.
Well, and what
Right.
we're seeing too is a convergence of someone like Joe Rogan, who kind of pre-social media was still somewhat of a celebrity in his own right, who's been able to leverage social media to become an even bigger celebrity. And then there's, YouTubers out there like, Casey Neistat, Roman Atwood, people that aren't necessarily have that celebrity outside of social media that are now, getting 5-6 million views per video per day. I mean, it's unbelievable that it's,
Making $25,000 a day.
Yeah, that's
at
crazy.
least.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's nuts that is now, it's kind of like the playing field has been leveled. You don't need, like back
You
in
don't
the
need
day.
to be a
that-
movie star, basically.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
you don't need to rent out studio space that would cost you, $2,000 an hour to put together a podcast.
No
I mean,
longer an excuse.
right.
Yeah, you can do a podcast from your phone.
Yeah.
Right.
Right? And I really like what you said about leveling that playing field. It's very true. And it's exciting. It's exciting to see who's going to come up and what's going to happen to cable news shows. And
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I think you hit it too with, and this is the duality of kind of like, I don't want to say contradicting, but, in terms of social media being, it's maturing, but in the grand scheme of things, the internet is, 30 years old at most from like, when it was the nerds logging into Unix servers and things
Yeah.
like that. So it's, mainstream internet is still, we're in over, if you look compared to the Industrial Revolution, we're still in the very beginning, and stuff is changing so quickly, where you have platforms like Snapchat that have really, popped in the last, couple years. They've been around a little longer. You've got stuff where it's like musically, I always go and look at kind of the most downloaded apps and seeing, what people are downloading. You've got these, musically, which is lip syncing music videos. But, it's like they've got like tens of millions of users, and it's just kind of like, wow. And it's all on the phone.
it feels great. It feels great that I don't have to get my music from other people telling me what to listen to. I can
Right.
go on Spotify,
Right.
and I love all sorts of music, but I really love heavy metal. And for a long time,
really?
Yeah, I love heavy metal. But for a long time,
Well,
I
okay.
normally wear a heavy metal T-shirt, but I came straight from the office. But for a long time, I was really frustrated because like the radio sucks, all these new bands suck. But now I have Spotify. I have access to anybody that has any music that wants it to be on Spotify, and I'm discovering unbelievable bands that are new, some that are a little bit older, but that I would never ever heard of if it wasn't for Spotify. And then you have these big artists that are crying because they get a half a penny for every listen, but there's 20 million listens on this song. Who listens to terrestrial radio anymore? It's
Right.
not many. It's Pandora, it's Spotify.
Yep.
Or for the artists that are complaining, though, it's like, take the Jay-Z model. Bought Tidal, has his own streaming music service, and then releases his albums exclusively on that. And so he's leveraging his audience to then, grow that platform that he owns. And so it's kind of, there's ways to like I don't want to say game the system, but things have changed. It's no longer, selling albums is not how you make money. It's touring. It's, if what's that rap band that I was just,
NWA?
Migos. It's this group out of Atlanta, I think, but there's these young rappers, and they're big on YouTube, huge, hundreds of millions of views on their things, and they release all their music for free because they're like, there's no money to be made in album sales anymore. The stuff that they get from streaming is, it's half a penny per song, and they make good money from that by all standards, but their big money comes from going and touring and selling merchandise,
Which is great for the fans, right?
Right.
There's bands that I thought I would have never seen because they're older, like Anthrax, right? I'm a big Anthrax fan. I'm like, oh, I'll never see them again. Well, it forces them on the road.
Yeah.
Right.
I get to see Black Sabbath, because it forces them on the road because that's where the money is.
At the
Well, and the
retirement
market
center.
kind of
What's
determines.
At the retirement center.
At the
And the market helps determine where they go. I was reading about them where it's they look at their YouTube analytics and see where most of their views are coming from. And if they don't have a tour set or a concert set there, they'll go and set one. If they have New York City and they're seeing that downloads are way outperforming relative to Chicago or something, they'll throw another show in New York because the data backs it up. So it's this weird thing where you've got hip hop culture traditionally, you probably don't think, analytics and data and all that, but it's now being used in conjunction with social media to determine where they're touring. It's just,
well, you know what it
blows
is?
my mind.
It's damn the man. Now we have power to actually damn the man.
right.
Right? I love Nine Inch Nails. I don't know if you guys like Nine Inch Nails, but I went to a show. This was probably 7 or 8 years ago, and he was going to film it and make a DVD. But because I think Sony produced Pretty Hate Machine, and they wouldn't give him the rights to a couple of his songs to be recorded for his video. So he would have had to remove them from the playlist for the concert. So he said, screw you, went on social media and said, we're lifting our camera policy tonight. Everyone bring their high-definition cameras.
Oh.
And so we went to the show, and you could see everyone had these really high-end cameras, and they filmed the show. And then he allowed everyone to upload it to his server, and then he provided the high-quality audio from the concert, and then allowed people to download each other's content and make their own
Oh, wow.
videos from the show, and then he uploaded those. So I could go on his website and see unbelievable footage that didn't cost him anything.
Right.
He was a genius, right? Didn't cost him anything. Screwed over Sony and all these other guys.
Yeah.
And so now we have the power to level that playing field. And the people that are recognizing that, like yourselves, right? You wouldn't be able to do what you're doing now 20 years ago without going through publicists and having not producers, but like representation
Yeah.
to go out and find the magazines to write articles for, right?
Yeah.
And to all do it from your sofa in your pajamas.
Yeah. Or
So-
my office in my yoga pants.
Yeah. Yeah.
No lie there.
So
Yeah.
it's exciting. It's really exciting. Even in the boring mortgage industry, there's opportunities for people to get out there and be scrappy and do stuff like what we're doing, which isn't mortgage related, but there's, it's Katie Parsons?
Yeah.
Kind of doing how you started. She just does a ton of videos, ton of Facebook, and she has a huge amount of followers, and it's directly impacting her mortgage practice. And it's something that she wouldn't have been able to do 15, 20 years ago.
Right.
And the other way to look at it is I have a 5-year-old daughter. She doesn't know life before iPads, right? So how much more advanced are they going to be when they hit their mid-20s and 30s?
Oh, that blows my mind. Yeah.
Or how screwed up are they going to be?
Yeah. Well, yeah, we didn't have
basic
cell
life
phones till I was
skills.
18.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't talk
Blows my
face to
mind.
face with
No
anybody.
internet. Yeah.
Right.
But their thought patterns and their ideas and what they're going to do with technology it's going to be really exciting to see. And if you can put yourself on the right side of that, you can benefit financially.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you're on the couch and have a good idea, turn off the podcast and go do it.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's key. It's execution. Ideas are a dime a dozen. Anybody can have them. It's executing on it. And you don't need to have the perfect plan, every little detail worked out. Things have a way of working themselves out. The snowball gets rolling, and it's like we started this Facebook page. Had no idea that Kara would end up an editor and writer for a trade publication, but that's how things worked out. But you start and
Build that platform.
yeah.
Right?
And it's, just go for it. I mean, people get so caught up, like we were talking about earlier, what people think, what their parents think, what their friends will think. And what's the saying where it's like, at first they'll laugh at you, then they'll hate on you, and then they'll want to join you type thing,
Yeah.
and that's kind of like the evolution of how things go. I mean, if people, no matter what, if you put yourself out there, you're going to get, some pushback from people. But I always say with Kara, results fucking matter. Like you have to execute to get results. And
Yes, we do say that at home.
yeah.
Well, and people are assholes. Your friends and family can be assholes. Do you guys know who Darren Hardy is? He used to be the publisher of Success Magazine. And I did one of his 12 module. It was called the Entrepreneur Roller Coaster. And on there he tells us, he has this analogy about crab pots, right? And for those of you who don't crab, you have a wire cage, you drop it to the bottom of the ocean and you put a little bait in there and the crabs can get in. It's difficult to get out, but they can get out, right? And so one crab goes in, starts eating, the other crabs see him, so they go in, and then one crab starts climbing towards the exit of the crab trap, and the other crabs will grab him and pull him back down. And then if he goes to try to escape again, they'll pull him down and break his leg. And then if he continues to try to escape from the pot, they'll kill that crab that's trying to
Really?
get out. Yeah. And so he said, he used that as an analogy of when you are starting your business, there's going to be people, naysayers, people that go, what you're doing, roll your eyes, talk behind your back, and, he's not going to make it. And they're the crabs,
They're
right?
pulling you down.
Oh,
They're
I
pulling it
agree
down.
with that.
And
Yeah.
that really helped me break through a certain point with my prospects. I'm no longer going to be scared about what people think, and think that even down to your loved ones who are looking out for your best interests. That
They
say,
can be some of the harshest
don't
critics.
take that
Yeah.
risk. I'm
Right.
worried about you failing,
Yeah.
Right.
right? And they're doing it out of love, but you still have to. They're still crabs.
And I'm not gonna lie, but it bothers me when people say something that's not nice. It still bothers me. It will probably always bother me. But then Ben just always says, just think, if they would trade places with you, they would in a minute. And it's like, okay, well, it doesn't mean they needed to make fun of my face when I posted my picture.
Yeah, a lot of times I think it is about, it can be very much about jealousy too. And
That's what I have to tell myself, because otherwise I don't know why people are so mean.
totally.
I mean, mean.
Yeah.
People hiding behind a computer or their phone, they're hiding, and they'll say anything.
Well, if you want to be mean about our podcast, just go to YouTube under the comment section, leave some comments, because that helps, I guess, with your. So you're not going to hurt my feelings.
Give an upvote with the mean
You can
comment.
say, "Hey, dork in the plaid shirt, you have a calyx sticking out." Please do it. Please do it, because we need more comments. But it's almost that can kind of create some exposure too. But there's people that get bent out of shape about it.
Oh, yeah.
Celebrities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you do have to understand that, if you're going to put yourself out there, you have to it's going to happen. But I'll tell you, some things are just plain hurtful. Like, where did that even come from? I mean, and it does kind of get under your skin. That's the one thing I wasn't
What are those
prepared
people
for.
called now? There's a term
Trolls.
for trolls, and there's a
Well,
whole industry
trolls.
about trolling.
I was just at the emergency room the other night, and a show was on, an interview with Ed Sheeran was on the TV, and I could only read it because, the volume wasn't on. But the question said something about, people have said some really mean things about you. How are you handling that? And he's like, I'm still a person. Like, just
Right.
because I'm famous doesn't mean I'm not a person. He's like,
Right.
it hurts my feelings. He's like, but I have to try to ignore it.
Right.
Because I get a lot of it, but it still hurts my feelings.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and it's keeping it in context. I have to remind Kara that, sometimes there'll be 300 comments on something and one of them will be negative. And, of course that one negative one is the one that sticks out the most. Mm-hmm. But we're talking about, 1/3% of everyone overall. And so and usually, probably almost always, that comment, it has something to do with them and some issues they're dealing with, what they're going through, and it just happens to be that like Kara will get the brunt of it, or something, they'll see a picture and they'll get triggered in some way, and because Kara's right there that they're looking at, it's easy for them to hammer out a comment.
Again, hiding behind their computer. If you wouldn't say it to someone's face, why in the world would you type it in a comment?
Well, and it's not like you're giving your opinions on celebrities. Not like you're writing a blog about entertainment,
Right.
where you're in a very niche specific. So I could see how that would be. It would take it more personal.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm just a sensitive soul.
that's all. It's good to be sensitive.
Nah.
I love the fact that you guys are doing this together, because having that support, not everybody has that.
A lot of people say do not go into business with your significant other. And I would almost say 99% of the time, I would agree with that. But we are so separated in what we do. I am the hygienist. I am the science, blah, blah, blah. He's not. We are so separated. We each have very specific roles that, yes, some of it overlaps, but it works. And it's a bit of luck, maybe. I don't know.
I think it's this clear separation of roles certainly helps.
It takes both of us.
Yeah, because if it's like a hygiene question, a thing like that, like that's her. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend I know. There's no reason. If it's kind of the marketing, business side of things, that's kind of my wheelhouse. So that's what I work on. I think that being in business with your partner, it will what's the word? It'll kind of like exemplify or exaggerate the issues that are already there. So if things are good, then you can it'll make your relationship stronger. If there's already cracks in your relationship, and then you're going to add on this other stress of having a business together, those cracks are going to get bigger. And so it's, fortunately we've been together,
7 years, over 7 years.
Yeah.
7-year itch.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we're engaged now. So
We are.
yeah.
Well, we talk about work-life balance a lot, and I think I've said this a lot. I've said this a lot on the podcast, but this new trendy work-life balance. I think it's starting to end, but a lot of those seminars they talk about work-life balance. I need to separate. I think a lot of that's BS. But that's just my opinion. But your work-life balance is different. It's probably different to manage because. When you guys go to a Blazer game, I guess Blazer fans, what are you fans of?
Blazers.
Sure.
Blazers. So let's say you go to a Blazer game. Do you guys turn it off and stop talking about your business? Or is it always going?
It's always in the background
It's
to a certain
always
extent.
in the background.
There's some things that are nice about it is we'll go to conferences, and a lot of times, Kara will be sponsored for that. So we essentially get free trips to travel together.
Yeah.
And so, yes, there are, responsibilities that need to be done during that, but at the same time, there's free time to go out and do stuff. So take the good with the bad. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of work. It's always kind of like, on our mind, but
Yeah, social media doesn't turn off. That's for sure. If an article's due, it doesn't matter if it's 11 o'clock at night, and it needs to be written, I need to write it. That is a hard thing of me working from home, having a home office, is I thought, my house is going to be so clean. And granted, I'm pretty OCD, so it is. But, sorry, it is, at least today. But you work more. You work more because it is right there. Like, oh, shoot, I need to check. Oh, I have a message. Oh, on my website, I have an inquiry. Or, oh, blah. It never stops. And you don't want to get backed up.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. It's not getting backed up and getting into kind of like a flow of what works. So I have my day job. I get home, and there's certain things that every day needs to be done. Kara will come up with an idea for a graphic. I'll go in Photoshop and kind of make it up. We'll go back and forth on it, and then we need to get it scheduled for the next day or an article. Sometimes I'll have to get Facebook ads set up. So I've learned that, don't go sit on the couch as soon as I get home. Like, hammer that stuff out and get it done. And I always try to, if it is not due the next day, try to have like an 8 p.m. cutoff where it's just like, just done. unless there's like a proposal due or, something.
We do try to do that. Yeah, we go upstairs and
The world's
go-
not going to end if it doesn't get done till tomorrow.
Right. And so, and Kara's gotten really good at that. Like, we'll finish up dinner or something and it'll be like 7:30 and a couple messages will pop up and she's like, I'm not going
not
to
till
get
tomorrow. My
Right.
brain is not. It's done today. So
Yeah.
it wouldn't be a good response anyway.
Yeah,
so,
you don't want to burn yourself out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and in the grand scheme of things, it's one of the nice things about having an audience is that you're able to provide whether you have, what am I trying to say here? If you have like 10 people following you, it's, or 200,000 people following you, but you're making posts on Facebook every day, the relative amount of work is really the same. You're still doing a post, you're scheduling it out, running ads, but the larger your audience gets, the more value you can bring to sponsors and advertisers. A lot more money for the same amount of work. And so that's, of pros and cons of this business model. It's kind of a nice thing because, as the audience grows, we can charge higher to sponsors. And so it's,
That brings up a question I have. Sorry to cut you off.
no, go ahead.
Because we're having fun with what we're doing and we're trying to get more views. That's kind of the fun thing right now. If you were to graph out your likes and views and your following on social media, does that graph look like a hockey stick or does it pretty steady? I mean, was there a point where it started to compound on itself?
It's pretty steady.
At this point, it's pretty steady.
At the beginning, it kind of went whoosh, but then it's still steady growth every day, really.
Yeah, I would say at the beginning, there was kind of like this hockey stick growth where some pieces of content that kind of got a little lucky in this, but went viral among dental hygienists. And they're like, oh, there's this new page. So they liked it. And so kind of got a bunch of people that followed right away. And then it's kind of, it's still growing all the time. I would say there was probably between, if we look at the thing, it's probably around like 25 to 30,000 people is when companies started getting interested. And so then we started having, money to put more towards ads, which contributed to more growth. Once it got to about 100,000 followers or so, it really took on a life of its own because now, even with Facebook limiting organic reach and all these, different things that they're always changing their algorithm, there's enough people that will see stuff and share stuff that new people are always finding it. And so it's definitely reached the tipping point where it's really kind of like self-sustaining at this point. But I'd say, yeah, quick hockey growth and then kind of, steady. There's always spikes. There was, just the day after 4th of July, there was that,
Yeah, if something
duck
goes
funnel.
big, there's a little bit of a spike, but yeah, it's pretty steady.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it is, I would say, get over that, a certain hump of where enough people start seeing it on a regular basis that it gets the shares. And that, maybe 100,000 is too high, but it's,
It doesn't.
yeah. So,
Well, we have 34 subscribers.
yeah. So you got a ways to
You
go.
have to start somewhere. You have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So hey, subscribe below.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I forgot to do it at the beginning.
That's
Go
all
ahead.
right. We're doing it right now.
We're doing it right now. Subscribe to our channel. Red button below,
Please.
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 Well, and we're just doing this for fun, but it is a lot of fun to do. And I can't imagine how difficult it is. And I like what you said about knocking stuff out right when you get home and then knowing what can wait till tomorrow, because just managing our full-time jobs and our families and then this on top of that, which is still a hobby, is difficult.
And the other hobbies that we have.
And the other
Right.
hobbies that we have.
Prioritize it's a huge
Yeah.
thing.
So I mean, I would imagine you're working 40 hours at your normal job, and then how many hours at this? So that's a lot.
It adds
Yeah.
up. It's I keep joking, as a long time ago read Tim Ferriss, The 4 Hour Work Week,
Yes.
kept joking that, we're starting our business that's going to, be 4 hours a week. And it's like, yeah, no, that's
No.
not the case. And, but nor do you want it to be the case. Cause once you get into it, it's, I personally enjoy this stuff. It's the numbers, the data, like,
Well, a true entrepreneur if you accomplish everything in 4 hours, you're going to take advantage of the other 4 hours and
Yeah.
do something else big, right?
Right. So, yeah, and I get a kick out of, you look at some of the stats of, I mean, her posts are reaching millions of people every month. I mean, it's, if we drop below 1 million people a week that see her posts, we're like,
That was
oh gosh,
bad.
we got to find some stuff that we know will go viral that'll bump those numbers back
Yeah.
up. And so to me, it becomes like larger than us, and that I don't want to be presumptuous, but I think that if Kara would just stop posting and disappear, there'd be some people out there that would probably be like, where did she go? And so that is also motivating, because it just, you just want to keep going, because you've
always
got this
laying
thing.
track. Like Shonda Rhimes, who did Scandal and Grey's Anatomy, she says always laying track for, like your train.
Uh-huh.
We are always laying track. It never stops.
Yeah, it's grind.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, are you guys goal setters?
Um,
You want another beer bin?
we don't really necessarily, we kind of, this sounds really bad, but we kind of just, if a door opens, if we want to walk through it, we walk through it. Now, we do have things that we are possibly going to do, but I wouldn't say, oh, in a month I need to have this many followers. Like that's not what we do. But we do have some projects that are in the works, that, so I don't know if you'd call that a goal or not, but
Personally, I'm real bad at it. I certainly see the value in goal setting and having plans and steps to get there. I'm more kind of a shoot from your hip and, just kind of like,
we're opposite there.
yeah, do it and see where it goes. Kara's definitely very regimented and
Organized. I want it this way.
Right. But one of the things I learned that was eye-opening, I went to business school, and so, I took some entrepreneurship classes, and big part of them is putting together these huge business plans, 60, 70 pages, every little detail written out and all that. So when in 2008, when my business partner and I went to start our own company, we did that. We projections, all these different things. We took it to our first potential investor, and they just were like, what is this? You think I have the time to read through this? Like, are you kidding me? Like, give me a 3-page PowerPoint with like the summary of like, what are you doing? How much money do you need? And how am I going to get it back? We don't care about any of this stuff. And it was very eye-opening, the difference between academia and then the real world, where you're taught you need to have a business plan, every step laid out, and then you get into the real world, and they were just like,
What I say is, says who? You know what I mean? Like, says who?
yeah. Now, that said, for people watching and listening, I do think that there is a lot of values in setting goals, because it does give you an identification of where you're at and where you want to go.
It makes you aware. I think the awareness is the biggest part. Whether you set goals or not, I think just the setting of those goals makes you self-aware. And so, like, that's a Gary Vaynerchuk thing. We're pretty big fans of Gary Vaynerchuk. And if he says it all the time, self-awareness, like, know your strengths, know what you're bad at. Like, if you're bad at this, don't do it. Like, do whatever you're good at. Like, being self-aware and just being aware in general.
Yeah. And I would say for, hope this doesn't come off bad, but in terms of like the sales, because we've got, as Kara's with Modern Hygienist, I mean, there's a sales team that's out there selling sponsorships now which was nice, because that took a lot of pressure off of me.
Within your company?
To sponsor my articles.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's kind of a nice partnership, they're a partner of us, so we have a revenue split with them, and so they're motivated to go out and sell, and then obviously, we have that. But I'm always pushing them. What do you have? What do you have in the pipeline? What's going? Doing that. So, I may be bad at setting goals for myself, I'm not shy about doing that with the sales team, because they need to constantly be poked in a way. I hope they're not watching.
Well, I mean, if you
Yeah.
had staff working for you doing X, Y, Z, you'd want to, yeah. I mean, that's just kind of business 101, right?
You have to have some measurement. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, especially when you're outsourcing something. It seems like, because it's off in the distance and they're doing what they're doing, so it's easy to kind of just say, okay, I'm just going to trust what they're doing.
Yeah, I have no idea what they're doing every day.
Yeah.
I mean, not really.
The whole inspect what you expect, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
So I have a question. Being that you're out of practicing every day, how do you stay in touch with, you know, all the modern stuff that's going on?
Read. Not only journals, research, several. I'm talking 15 or 20 closed dental hygiene Facebook groups. The messages that I get, always looking at the newest technology, newest protocols, trying it out myself, whether it be I'll get an instrument and I'll scale myself. Can't scale anybody else because I'm not, under at a doctor's office, working for, but like I'll do it all myself. I'm allowed to do that. So it just, I feel like I'm very connected, even though I'm not necessarily in a dental office. And if I do need to get into a dental office, like I said, my cousin's a dentist and my sister's a dental assistant. So
Carol will go there to try out products.
I'll go there to try out products and
I'm the patient of
whatnot.
record there,
And,
so.
and he's a patient of record. So we're all legal. It was all okayed. But it's just reading every day a lot. I never thought I would be reading this much.
How many words per minute can you read?
My last test I took on that, I don't know.
I was in the 8th grade.
Yeah.
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 So what do you guys think of the museum?
This is interesting. Quite frankly, I wish their mouths were open in these.
I was going to ask you
on
about
these
their
animals.
teeth. What do you think?
Because I look at dogs' teeth. Like I'll go to my mom's house and I'm like, let me see the teeth on that dog. I wish more of their mouths were open. This is just.
There are some that are open. We should have you look at them. So
I
you
should.
There's the fox up there.
Yeah, but those are way too far away. I thought I'd be creeped
bear's
out.
mouth's open.
I thought I'd be creeped out, and I'm not. I'm actually kind of just awestruck, really. I did. I was like,
Yeah.
uh-oh, this is going to be weird. But not really. Not really at all.
Do you
Yeah.
guys do a lot? What do you guys do outside of? Do you do outdoor stuff or?
We like to go on vacations, but I ride quads,
Oh, yeah?
four-wheelers at the dunes. So I'm going to be bringing him into that. Otherwise, he's a big skier. I was a skier and a snowboarder.
nice.
We haven't gone together lately, ever. But we both played soccer. I did ballet, so I like to dance around the house. That doesn't count. But
A lot of mini vacations.
mini vacations is pretty much what we do. I love going to the
3-4
beach.
day weekend.
But
Yeah.
can you guys take vacation? Or can you take it's
Anywhere
like-
my computer goes.
Well,
Or,
know,
I mean,
that's not
but
a
am
true
I ever
vacation.
on vacation?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
if you look at it like that, no.
No.
Although we did, so last week, was that 4th of July week?
Yes.
We took a tour around Washington because we're new residents of Washington, previously from Portland, so not that far. But went up to the Washington coast, went to Cape Flattery, the Northwest Point, and then kind of Olympic Peninsula around there. And for the most part, we scheduled out a bunch of posts ahead of time, and I think you brought your laptop, but
And I
didn't even
never
open
got it
up.
out. Just I would check my phone once in a while, but pretty much everyone, like I kind of have a rule, and it's really kind of stupid considering the followers. But like I try to get back to every single message within 24 hours. Nope, that didn't happen while we were on vacation. It's like, sorry, you guys are going to have to wait. But so kind of. The only other time last summer, we did a loop around Oregon, a big loop, because I had a wedding to go to in, let me think, southeastern Oregon, Jordan Valley. They do not have internet. They do not have cell phone service. So we were days
Sounds
without.
like Unity, Oregon.
So we did not have a choice.
For another podcast.
But yeah, other than that, I mean, if you have your phone, you kind of can't get away from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, glad you guys came out. How can people get in touch with you?
It's easiest to message me through Facebook. Otherwise, if you go to carardh.com, there is a contact place that I get an email.
Search dental hygiene with Care RDH.
Yeah, super easy.
That's Kara, Kara,
the
RDH.
right way to spell it.
Are you
Yeah.
guys on Instagram?
Yep.
What do you put pictures of? Teeth?
No.
A lot
just
of memes.
Gum
It's
disease?
laugh.
Gum
Yeah,
disease?
there's a lot of memes.
Laughy stuff. That's more of just the fun. Yeah. When it comes to, I try and do more articles.
What do
on
you
Facebook.
use your Snapchat for?
That's more behind the scenes. Like when I'm at conferences, I'll do behind the scenes things. Or the poor followers, they see so much of my dogs. They know my dogs like I know my dogs. Oh, look, she got her bone. I mean, but people snap me back. Oh my gosh, and then they ask questions. Oh, how did you? Anyways, but that's more behind the scenes and just me being just a big dork.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
people like dealing with people that are real, right?
Yeah. Oh, I'm very real.
So your Instagram handle is,
Kara_RDH.
okay, I see a theme.
Yeah. People call me, oh, it's Kara RDH. It's like, Kara is fine.
Good. Well, do you guys have anything else?
I kind of do.
Yeah.
This is really weird. A lot of people ask, like, but how did you push forward? And I should have thrown this in later, but if I don't say it out loud, I'm going to be mad at
Do it.
myself. Because I see a lot of like thought leaders in our industry and things like that. Oh, make friends with people who can do things for you. Or, people wait for things to fall into their lap. And so I just had to say that my advice is you can't wait for it to be done for you. You can't wish something into existence. You can't manifest it. I think I'm going to get a check in the mail, and then tomorrow a check will come in the mail. That is my biggest pet peeve, and I'm sure, again, in all industries there's people who go around and say that, but that you've got to open your own. If there's not a door to open, or all the doors in front of you for opportunities are locked, you need to build your own door. You can't wait for someone to hand it to you. You can't wait for it to fall in your lap, and you certainly can't ride on someone else's coattails.
That's very motivating. You're getting me fired up.
It's a big pet peeve of mine when I see people spout that.
It's
crap.
looking at real personal development stuff, not kind of woof.
I'm a
There was a gal in our, not to cut you off, there was a long time ago, there was a gal in my office, and everyone has their religious beliefs. I have mine. Not here to dog on anybody. But one thing that drives me nuts is, it's in God's hands.
Oh,
Well, kind of.
right.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I understand that, and I believe that to a point too, but God's not going to pick up that phone and make phone calls for
Uh-huh.
you.
Or the
Exactly.
book, The Secret. That drives me
Just
nuts. I
steer
know
clear
some
of
people
that.
What's the
love
secret?
it. It's basically what Kara's talking
You can
about.
manifest it.
Yeah,
Just think it,
it's,
and it will
it's
happen.
that the thoughts that you put out into the world are what comes back to you.
Now, granted, if you want to be positive, yes, more positive things will happen. to you.
Right.
But you can't, again, like I said, you can't just think, I really need to pay my bills and I need a check to come. And then a week later, a check is not going to end up in your mailbox.
Yeah.
You got to
Period,
work
the
for
end.
it. You can't just
Yeah.
like.
Are you working
wishful
15 hours a
thinking.
day?
Then
Then maybe, but
Yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
well, if it's in God's hands, well, God put you in this office with cool
Yeah.
people with a phone right there.
yeah,
So maybe you should pick it up.
yeah.
Right.
Agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was just my last thing. I knew if I went home and didn't say it, I
that's
Well,
would.
it's like that in the industry. You have the, especially with medical, right? You have I'm trying not to offend anybody here, but you have snake oil salesmen, right? Where and it's very true in the personal development field too, is that whole, like what you said. If you vision out, I'm a big believer in self-affirmations and that kind of stuff, but
Right.
nothing replaces hard work.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, you're not.
Totally agree.
Yeah, you cannot get away with not doing hard work because you made a vision board.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ben. That is very true. I
So
agree.
you got to work.
And
That's-
some
Yes.
people need a vision board. Some people don't. Some people need accountabilities. Some people don't. But if you don't go out there and explore those things and sit down and talk with cool people, then how are you going to figure that out?
Right.
right.
Right? And just open up your phone, look through your phone book. How many cool people do you know? And that's what we're realizing doing the show, is we don't have to go out and have a celebrity or somebody big in your industry. Just talk to the people you're working with
Yeah.
that are in the trenches with you. So
Are we cool people?
you are now. You've been on the podcast.
You are. I don't know.
No, I mean, I didn't know what to expect when you guys were coming in today. If we were going to be talking about, should we put Ben Young on the show? He's our next guest. He's driving me nuts. He's probably lost. I'm going to kick him when he comes in. He just blew my train of thought.
You said you didn't know what to expect.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know if we are going to be talking about dental hygiene or business, but
I'd bore you.
I love sitting down and talking about personal development. That's what the show is. Yesterday we had a guest on who we had talked about. He's doing the Pacific Coast Trail, and that was really Crest Trail, and it was really inspiring and everything. But and it's not that I didn't enjoy that, but I really enjoyed personal development. So it was a lot of fun talking with you guys. I'm sure we're going to continue when we're done here. But anything else?
I think
Any
that
other
I can sleep well tonight now that
Good.
I said that.
Got that off your chest.
Good.
Yeah, I feel
No,
good.
thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you.
I
Yes.
know that I was going to be in the
last minute.
background, but yeah, so thank you for having me on.
No, I'm glad we got you a chair to sit down with us. But yeah, come back anytime you guys want. Check in on the show, and we're really trying to get to 100 subscribers. That's our goal. So if you're listening, or when you guys are done, go to our YouTube channel and subscribe. Once we get to 100, we get our own URL. So
Oh, cool.
See,
yeah.
little goals. Little
Little
goals.
goals.
Let us
There you
know
go.
when it is up, and we'll post it on Kara's page.
absolutely, absolutely. And we're our next goal, besides stats, is to live stream. We have the ability to do it now,
Oh.
and then so we will have a live stream. So if you're listening soon, in the next 2 years, we'll do it. No, sometime soon we'll be doing the live stream, and we can push that to our social media when we start. So that's our next big thing. So,
Baby steps, but
Yeah.
they're still steps.
yeah.
You got to start somewhere.
I like it.
I mean,
I like it. Congratulations.
Well, thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you guys for being on.
Thank you.
well, thank you.
All right, thanks everybody.
All right. Take care.